Hello, everybody. Hope that you're having a good Monday morning. Sunday morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm still waking up, obviously. So I wanted to cover the Japanese election. Now, I'd been holding off a bit on doing a video on this because I just did one last year that I think covered most of it. But I figured the election was this morning, so we'll watch the rest of the results come in and I'll just tell you what's been going on. So we'll do kind of like a full breakdown, what's been happening, what's happened now, what does it mean, that kind of thing. Because I'd say I'd be following this moderately closely. Moderately closely. Probably the Western country, the non-Western country that I follow the most closely would be Japan. There is a channel on, not channel, but there's Aaron Uni on Twitter. I highly recommend you go and follow him. Western country. He does really good coverage of Japanese politics in English. So, yeah. And I've learned a lot from him. Just because a lot of this stuff doesn't get published in English. A lot of it is very... I don't know if niche is the right term, just people don't really understand how it works. So, for those of you who are just getting in, we're covering the Japanese election. We're just going to start off by seeing where we are, how we got here, and that kind of thing. So just let me know if the audio is having any trouble. Apologies if I'm occasionally sipping things. I have my morning coffee here. I am drinking Kirkland Dark Roast. So, it's looking like, well, it's pretty much confirmed at this point, the Liberal Democratic Party, which I will be calling the LDP, is going to be getting a majority. The question, though, is whether they're going to be getting a supermajority of 2/3, which is important because they will need that to be able to start constitutional revisions, which has been the long-term dream of the LDP. So, how did we get here? Let's just take a step back. So, after Shinzo Abe left, we went through a succession of boring, uninteresting, and unimportant Japanese prime ministers. My understanding is basically they were all just frontmen for Abe, who had mostly stepped down just because of health issues, and he wasn't. He just didn't really have the energy to directly lead the party as prime minister anymore. So he kind of took power behind the scenes. I mean, this is very common in Japan. For most of Japanese history, you had the emperor who was kept basically in a prison cell in the royal palace, who was controlled by the regency of the Fujiwara family. And then during, I forget which period it was, you had the Fujiwaras were controlled by the Tiaras, I think. Tiaras. And so you had a period where the power behind the throne was controlled by the power behind the throne. So you had the power behind the throne with the power behind the throne. So, so Shinzo Abe was more or less controlling things from behind the scenes. He obviously got shot a couple years back. I didn't follow the details of him being assassinated. It involves some weird cult and a bunch of other stuff. But when he died, things kind of started to fall apart for the Liberal Democrats. So for those of you who don't really follow, don't really know what Japanese politics is like, basically they did not, from my understanding, go through the same degree of political purging that you had in Germany after World War II. So a lot of the nationalists and their various adjacent groups managed to survive. So post World War II, we had the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party formed, which were both, to my understanding, economically liberal, kind of national conservative parties. I think there was some differences between them, but it's not important. And as time went on, the two merged. So let's just go take a look at this. I know it's Wikipedia, but Wikipedia just has the best election summary pages. By the way, people want me to go in a different order as we're covering these things. So yeah, we had the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party. Let me just see. Yeah, so they eventually merged together to form the Liberal Democratic Party. And the Liberal Democratic Party has governed Japan pretty much since World War II. There's been one or two periods where they did not govern it, but Japan has a dominant party system. So the Liberal Democratic Party basically just wins every election. It's more a question of how much they win. I think there's only been two elections that they've definitively lost. One was 1993, where they briefly lost their majority but remained the largest party. And the other election was, I think, 2011 or 2012. No, it wasn't 2012. 2009. Okay, I was close. Wherein, because of the financial crisis, they also briefly lost power. But other than that, the LDP has been in power for the entirety of post-war Japan. So the Liberal Democratic Party, I just say that they are a national conservative party. They're kind of a big tent. They're sort of the Japanese establishment. If you've ever seen an anime, when they talk about politics, they will go the party or the government, and they are very seldom particularly specific. It's because it's always the LDP, so there's no real point in kind of saying who it even is. It's just the government, and then they'll often say in anime the opposition, and it's very much the opposition because the opposition is normally just kind of a disaster in Japan. So they're basically always in power. So, like I said, they are a big tent. National. Did I major in politics? Yes, I did. My undergraduate is in political science. My master's degree, I don't want to say because it's somewhat related. We'll just say it's somewhat related. I didn't take it because as a just an academic thing, but it is related. So, as I said, I have worked in politics in the past. I used to work in polling. I used to work in polling and public affairs, particularly with regards to conservative politics in Canada. So if I ever seem to know a lot about polls, that's the reason. But anyway, so yeah, they're a big tent conservative party. The thing about them, though, is like a lot of huge main dominant parties, because they're so big, there's factions within them. So within the LDP, there's the more nationalist faction. There's a more liberal faction, classical liberal. There's a moderate faction. There's the more, they're generally pro-America, but there's the more reconcile with China faction. There's a whole bunch of different ones. Japan runs a lot off of patronage. So while they're generally speaking a conservative party, being able to just get money for your particular faction or candidate or the party in general is often the overriding concern. So under this system, it was a lot of internal competition between the different groups to see who could get the most money and control things. So with Abe gone, things kind of fell apart. Shigeru Ishiba, who is a I kind of feel as like a Shakespearean tragic figure because he um, is base Japan girl gonna win? Yes, she is. The question is a 2/3 majority. Hopefully, I'm not boring you too much with this. I think it's important to give you the context of the story to explain what happened. So during the Ishiba's government, and I think under the prime minister, yeah, Kishida, who was before him, basically it came up that yeah, the LDP is widely corrupt. Everybody knew it. They had massive slush funds. People were getting all kinds of different money and stuff like that. So that came out, and the faction system was formally dissolved. I'm not sure if it continues to exist or not, but the various factions don't exist anymore. Actually, let's take a look at this. Now, they don't exist anymore, but yeah, you had the like moderate conservatism, the Abe faction with the more right wing of the party. So Ishiba has spent like decades trying to take power. Uh, um, so basically, what's happened is in almost every leadership contest for, well, not almost every, but in a lot of the leadership contests, Ishiba had, yeah, see, 2020, 2018, you can just kind of keep going back, and he's pretty much always in second place and always trying to become the leader of the party. And in 2024, after like decades of clawing his way to finally become party leader, he became party leader right as the massive slush fund scandal broke, and he had to take the brunt of it. So yeah, he lost. He led the LDP to one of their first actual defeats. I think the third time they've lost their majority. So, and then he was removed. So he spent like 30 years trying to become prime minister. He was prime minister for like 5 minutes, and then his career ended. Yeah, he was prime minister for 20 days. I guess he's still in the history books though. Um, but yeah, so he got wiped out. So then we had a rematch of the leadership election, which was run by Sanai Takaichi. If I'm pronouncing the name right, I'll just call her Takaichi for the remainder of it. So she had previously come in a close second. She is, to my understanding, Abe's protege, or she comes from his wing of the party. The more Japanese nationalist, the more conservative wing, and she narrowly lost in the previous one. Now Koizumi, from what I've heard, is like the young, hip. I think a lot of women find him attractive. But I've heard he's kind of brain dead and not very bright. And he's kind of seen as the future of the party. So Takaichi succeeded in winning in the next leadership race. And she decided to hold a snap election. Now, my understanding in Japanese politics is snap elections generally happen, and this happens in most parliamentary systems, immediately after a new leader gets elected. It's not so much a legitimacy thing, it's just for because they're initially very popular, and it gives them a chance to cash in on that. So in the 2024 election, so that was the last election before this, we saw a proportion of the vote go to nationalist parties. Sansito and the Conservative Party of Japan managed to pick up a portion of the vote. The LDP lost quite a bit of their vote share, and they were reduced to a minority status in the Japanese diet. Uh, Now, the other aspect of this is so the LDP was in coalition with the Komeito Party for years. They were in coalition with them even if they didn't need to. So even if they had enough seats to govern by themselves, they tended to be in coalition. So they are a religious party who is basically all of the members of Soka Gakkai, if I'm pronouncing this properly, which is a new religious movement based on Buddhism. All the members of Soka Gakkai vote for Komeito. So it was a way for the LDP to just pick up some extra seats and make their coalition more secure. So after the 2024 election, the coalition did not have enough seats in order to get a majority. So Takahashi, so Ishiba resigned, Takahashi took power. Now Komeito is like I don't even know. They're supposedly Buddhist democracy, but they're kind of like a super moderate centrist to like liberal party. And they didn't like Takahashi, so they decided that they were going to leave the coalition. So they left the coalition, and that left the LDP in a huge issue because they barely had enough. They had after the 2024 election, 198 seats. You need 233 to govern. And the main opposition party had 167, so it was very close in terms of how things were. So they formed a new coalition with the Japanese Innovation Party, or Ishin, which is a Osaka-based party. They are kind of a I don't know what you want to call them, a populist conservative party. They have a more of a libertarian, neoliberal streak to them. But their main thing is anti-corruption, reform, but they're also kind of nationalists, so they support constitutional revision. And there's a lot of overlap between them. The major cleavage is the Japanese Innovation Party supports gay marriage legalization, which the LDP does not. So, yeah, it's right wing. So it's basically kind of moderate right wing libertarian populism. So they formed a coalition with the LDP, which proved to be a much more ideologically coherent coalition. Now, part of me thinks one of the reasons for this is there is lots of people in the LDP who are reformists, who want to clean up a lot of the corruption and inefficiency. So forming a coalition with Ishin, or the Japanese Innovation Party, were it gave them a chance to do reform. So like I said, Ishin is a conservative populist party with libertarian leanings. They're very much about decentralization, federalization, innovative new government strategies, making things more efficient, cleaning up corruption, but also support the constitutional revision. So they produced a more coherent coalition. So Kamito joined with the Constitutional Democratic Party to form the Centrist Reform Alliance, which might be one of the lamest names of anything ever. So the Centrist Reform Alliance was consisted of the CDP, or the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, which was previously the Democratic Party of Japan. The Japanese go between being very creative and not very creative with party names. So basically, they're the perennial second banana in the Japanese system. The opposition parties in Japan basically collapse and reform and remerge and split on a monthly basis. So the Centrist Reform Alliance was a left wing social liberal party and a niche party that represents a new religious movement. And that was the Centrist Reform. It did not include the DPP, or the Democratic Party for the People, which is like a moderate conservative party that broke off from the LDP. So the Centrist Reform Alliance included two parties, one of which was a religious party, and the other was like a social liberal party. So I don't know, it just didn't make a lot of sense, and no one really cared that much. So they got completely felted in this election. Let me just see, what are we at with the... Take a look at the polls. They got completely and totally felted in this election. Because nobody liked them. It didn't make sense to anybody. Basically, nobody cared. So they're getting completely destroyed. Takaichi is very popular, especially with younger voters. Now, one of the definitive issues in this election was immigration. Japan allowed an extremely small amount of immigration and refugees, and basically they allowed some Kurds in, and the Kurds immediately started causing major problems, like attacking women and being loud and ungrateful, and it really pissed off the Japanese public. And so they're like, this whole immigration thing is a bad idea. The only serious immigration Japan has, I think, is from other East Asian countries, and even then it's like a percentage or two of the population, like the Philippines or China or South Korea, or something like that. So the other reason Takaichi was probably chosen is we had these small conservative parties, Sansito. Actually, Sansito's solution to the succession problems of the Japanese throne was to bring back the constitution, to bring back the concubine system and allow the emperor to have multiple wives so he could produce many imperial heirs, which is LARPy, but I kind of respect the man for going all in on the nationalist LARP. But yeah, so part of why Takaichi, I think, was chosen was to prevent the LDP support from bleeding over into it. Bleeding over. So we're having the election now, and it looks like the LDP, they've already pretty much claimed a majority. The question is, are they going to get a supermajority? And are they going to get a supermajority alone or in alliance with the Japanese Innovation Party? Because they might maintain their alliance with Ishin even if they do get their majority. Because it gives them extra seats, and it doesn't really cost them very much to be in coalition. Basically, they just have to, from my understanding, in Japan, committees matter a lot. So they can just give Ishin a bunch of committee assignments, they have a lot of what would be considered good ideas, like a lot of conservative or libertarian leaning reforms, which a lot of people in the LDP would like anyways, and they're there in case the election goes badly next time, and they could just re-enter an alliance with them. Also, if they might need to get they might need them for 2/3 to initiate constitutional revision. So there's a bunch of things that they want to change in the Constitution. The main one is they want to formalize the JDF. The JSDF, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, as the official military of Japan. So I think the current Constitution doesn't mention it. And move it a bit more towards being a regular military. Another thing is they want to formalize the role of the emperor. There's a list of things that they want to put in. It's been the LDP's goal for decades, and it's just never actually happened for whatever reason. Have they begun deporting Jeets? I don't know. But let's take a look at Aaron Yumi, because he did some cool stuff where he went through each party's position on different topics. So before we get into this, let's just take a look at who the parties are, because we'll just go through them. So, where were we? By the way, if anyone's more knowledgeable about Japanese politics and wants to correct me, go ahead. Someone's bringing up the debt issue. So Japan has one of the highest debt to GDP ratios in the world. I think it's 200. It's over 250%. It is very 250%. It is very misleading. So a lot of Japan's debt is owned by the Bank of Japan. So the Bank of Japan owns it, which basically means the Japanese government owns its own debt, and it pays interest to itself. Most of the rest of it is owned by pension funds and corporations. So when you look at... Raid is currently on my lap. Good girl. Just don't bite me, girl. Yeah, so of the 250,000, 90% of that is owned domestically. Let me see, what percentage of the American debt is foreign? So yeah, in comparison, about 30% of the U.S. debt is foreign. I think even within that, a lot of it is owned by the Bank of Japan and pension funds. Also because Japanese debt is seen as probably the most secure in the world, the actual interest rate on the debt is probably like 1% or less. Let me look this up. Okay, yeah, so the interest rate on the debt is about 0.7%. A lot of, or let's see here, this is 2.2. It's really hard to tell what the interest rate is on debt. So I'm seeing somewhere between 0.5 and 2%. But because it's owned by the Bank of Japan, it goes back to itself. Also because a lot of the major pension funds own the debt, the Japanese government will pay interest to the pension funds. The pension funds will pay that out to the people and the people who get the pensions, and a lot of it will just kind of go back into the system. Domestic debt is not really that big a problem in a lot of cases because the money continues to circulate inside of the domestic economy. It is still an issue, though. So hopefully that kind of explains and contextualizes it. Keep in mind that a lot of the American debt is owned by the Federal Reserve. I don't think it's like a ton, it's like 20%. The Federal Reserve is part of the Treasury Department. So when America pays interest to the Federal Reserve, the money it gets just goes back into the Treasury Department. So they pay interest to themselves. I don't know. National debt is kind of just is confusing. So as we said, we have the LDP, the Big Ten National Conservative Party, the Centrist Reform Alliance, which no one can really explain what it even is, the Democratic Party for the People, which is another moderate conservative party that broke off of the LDP. The Japanese Communist Party. The Japanese Communist Party is one of the strongest communist parties in the world. They consistently get more of a vote share than you really can expect. Let's see here. Reiwa. Reiwa, for those of you who aren't aware, is the current era Japan is in. The era is named after the emperor. So we had like the Taisho era, the Meiji era, and the Showa era, which always makes me laugh. We have the Tax Cut Japan Patriotic Alliance. There's also a Save the People from the NHK party. Sansito is kind of this weird populist nationalist party, but also they're also like anti-vax, and I think they support organic food and stuff. Conservative Party of Japan is another nationalist party that was formed when the LDP passed an anti-gender discrimination law. The Social Democratic Party is another perpetual loser in Japanese politics. And I'm not really sure who these other random people are. They just kind of periodically show up. Okay. So I just have to be careful. So ChatGPT suggested, and I think they're right, that the reason that Rain keeps biting me is because she is a super active hunting sense. So when she's sitting on my lap, if I'm moving my hands too quickly, it'll trigger her instincts, and she'll think that it's a mouse. So if I have to move my hands slowly. She's currently just like walking across my keyboard. So, yeah, so they had the Protect the People from the NHK party, which was based on abolishing licensing fees, similar to the issue you have in the United Kingdom. So, okay, so where were we? Okay, Aaron Yumi. Yeah, so the CRA is okay. So how elections work in Japan? So Japan has what is known as mixed member proportionality. So I think 2/3 of the seats are single member districts. Single member districts is okay, girl. You can't be biting me. Single member districts are what you have in the U.S. and Canada, where you have an individual district. Whoever gets the most votes wins. So most of the seats I think are that. The other third or so is from proportional voting. So you cast 2 votes. Now the proportional voting is a little confusing because it's on a regional basis. So say Hokkaido Hokkaido might get like 10 proportional seats. If you win 40% of the vote in Hokkaido, you get 4 seats from that. But if you win in but it doesn't translate into national seats. There aren't really national seats. There's regional seats. So hopefully that explains it. Some parties do better in terms of the national seats, and some parties do better in terms of the regional seats. The LDP, like most conservative parties, racks up the margins in the rural areas. The rural areas, as with a lot of rural areas, have less population, but there's a disproportionately large number of them. Let me see if I can find it. How do I? I can never remember how to search someone's. Just trying to find it. Sorry for the boomerness. If someone could tell, how do I search through the posts of a specific person? I'm sure there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. I probably should have seen that, but it was not the most obvious place. Let's see. Just trying to find it. Okay, here we go. Each party's view of immigration. So, I'm not sure of the exact uh, policy, but I believe Takeichi wants to reduce immigration and deport illegal immigrants and stuff like that. So here is the different parties' opinion on it. So the CRA, foreign workers are essential. We need a respect-based, rule-compliant society. Ishin says, yes, we have to reduce immigration. Let's see here. Democratic Party for the People, we want to reduce immigration. The Communist Party, the government fails to criticize baseless discrimination against foreigners and promotes exclusionary policies. Reiwa says issues caused by government policy failures are being shifted onto foreigners, diverting into attention from real solutions. Yukuko, I forget who they are. They're like some last minute party. So they say it's their policy amounts to mass immigration. Sensito says no, we have to reduce immigration. Japanese Conservative Party says we need to reduce immigration. SDP wants more immigration. Basically, liberal parties in Japan, left-wing parties in Japan have never been particularly popular. The country tends to be pretty center-right, and like national conservatism tends to be the kind of norm in Japan. It's a bit like, I don't know, people can correct me if I'm wrong. It reminds me a bit like Russia, where the general population is culturally conservative, somewhat nationalistic, and but not super ideological. So United Russia reminds me a bit of the LDP, just in terms of being like a Big Ten conservative party. So it's looking like the two parties have gotten a supermajority. The question is, will the LDP get enough to do a supermajority on their own? Okay, Rain, you can sit on my lap, girl, but you can't bite me. That's that's the deal. Don't violate the deal. This is the centrist Reform Alliance leaders. Uh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask the chat. Is that the look of two men who have been felted? Is that the look of two men who they've lost all their chips and they're about to be kicked out of the casino? I would say that is. Takahashi is really happy. Ishin managed to re-win their election in Osaka. Takaichi is yeah, she looks really happy. Okay, let's see here. Oh, that's funny. CRA 0 seats. Just trying to see what else he said. He translated all of the party manifestos into English, which was interesting. So, is the LDP based? I guess is what people are asking. By the standards of of Western countries, yes. I don't know if there's really a equivalent I can think of, because the kind of politics that they advocate is not really that mainstream here. So there's not really an equivalent to it that I can really say. Just because like Orban and a lot of these people are more kind of outsiders, whereas the LDP basically is just the government and always has been. Let's see. Tax cuts Japan, Yukuko. I think that they are I think they're a nationalist party. I don't. They don't even have a Wikipedia page. We have the Social Democratic Party. So, gay marriage is supported by all the mainstream parties except for the LDP, and the nationalist parties are also against it. I don't know who Aaron Uni votes for. He's referred to himself as a moderate conservative, so I'd imagine he probably votes LDP. The LDP is very pro-America. In terms of their foreign policy, they tend to be anti-China, pro-America, pro-military. A lot of the right of Japan, even within the nationalist wing, tends to be pro-America. The thing is that Japan and South Korea are up against China, and neither of them is really strong enough to take on China by themselves or in kind of coalition with each other. So I think a lot of the political leaders in those countries prefer to be in America's sphere of influence because Washington is far from Tokyo. So they'd rather have a overlord who is distant and largely lets them do their own thing than an overlord who is nearby and will force them into compliance. Oh, Starmer. I don't know. Centrist Reform Alliance has to be one of the lamest names of all time. I wanted to show you the polls are really weird in Japan. Because no party is often the highest. So if you look at the like the election polls, you'll have up to like 40% of the population as no party. Now, my understanding is no party normally breaks for the LDP, but it's just weird to see. When I worked in polling, we would often just remove undecideds. Or we'd have no undecideds and undecideds. And in Canada, it would be like 10 to 15% or something like that. Whereas in Japan, it's like over a third of the vote. Conservative Party of Japan. So that's where we are at the moment with the various factions. So as we're waiting for the vote to come in, I think I covered all the major points I wanted to get across. People can correct me if I'm wrong. Would you ever get back into politics? Maybe. Never say never. Never say never. So it's looking like I don't know. It's hard to tell just because, like for Ishin, they get almost all of their seats from Osaka. So I don't know if all the Osaka seats are called yet. So they might surge. Centrist Reform Alliance looks like it's just getting beyond felted. Um, so in Canada, I don't know what Carney's doing. If Carney's like become the big brain centrist or something, but we're actually having deportations in Canada, and immigrants are leaving the country because he just didn't renew a whole bunch of stuff. So, um, in Manitoba, international students were such a large portion of the students that the Institute for Trades and Technology has closed due to Cardi reducing international student enrollment because their entire model was basically based on it. So basically, Canadian universities are just on make obscene amounts of money from international students, and Carney has reduced it. He also isn't renewing a bunch of uh, temporary foreign workers permits. The funny thing is, because the liberals have completely crushed the independent media in this country, he can basically do just whatever he wants. Um, and uh, I don't know. They're doing some immigration stuff now. I mean, like you can go based, and like it's better than I thought it would be. But this is after the Trudeau wave, so it's not really going to help that much. But I'll take anything. Like I said, in a lot of the cases when I'm walking around, I don't. I often will just not meet people who speak English. Um, like I can go almost whole days without meeting anyone who coherently speaks English. It's kind of what my day is often. What do I think of Trudeau dating Katy Perry? I don't know. It kind of makes sense. If they were to have a child, it might be the Antichrist, though. I mean, Justo's kind of a karma Houdini. His party was scheduled for basically 0 seats. He got out. Carney did really good. And then, or not the independent media, but the mainstream media that's not the CBC basically got crushed. So things are going good. The conservatives are just like a constant shit show here. Um, I'll be honest, I voted for Bernier the last two elections. Next election, I'll probably just go back to voting conservative because the People's Party of Canada is going nowhere, and I'm increasingly starting to think that it's a grift. So, Nick Cageathon makes uh, the accurate point. All they really had to do was run a metalhead girl boss, and the entire Japanese left collapsed. It's true. Also, the nationalist part of the Japanese uh, government collapsed, or the Japanese nationalist wing. So, yep, the LDP has a majority. Will they reach 2/3? I think it's probably almost certain that they will reach 2/3 in coalition. The question is, will they reach 2/3 otherwise? By the way, Takeishi is just, I don't know, her face is really weird. So let's look at what some of the proposed amendments are. Just trying to find the most recent ones. So some of what they wanted to do, they wanted to declare the emperor as reigned by the emperor. Let's see here. It formally defines him as the head of state. Uh, let's see here. Just looking here. They've changed. They want to change human rights from being universal to being state given. Let's see here. The LDP draft replaces the word individuals with persons to curb excessive individualism. Let's see here. The LDP adds a new paragraph which enables the state to prohibit people from performing expressions for the purposes of interfering with public interests and the public order. Bans public officials from union membership. Under the current constitution, torture and cruel punishments are absolutely forbidden, but the LDP draft deletes the word absolutely. Let's see here. Obligations to the people. So they're introducing obligation clauses. The people must respect the national anthem and the flag. The people must be conscious of the fact there are responsibilities and obligations in compensation for rights and freedoms. The people must comply with public interests and public order. The people must help one another among the members of a household. The people must uphold the Constitution. Let's see. Let's see here. The LDP draft deletes the current clause that prohibits the state from granting political authority to a religious organization. It enables the state to perform religious acts itself with scope of social protocol of ethnocultural practices. Let's see here. Gives them political control over the Supreme Court. So, yeah, basically just a lot of collectivist stuff. Japanese conservatism tends to be fairly collectivist. Japan is a very collectivist society, normally. So, well, it looks like we haven't had any updates for a little while at least. Oh, no, we did. Oh, wow. Okay. We've had some big updates. The Liberal Democrats look like they are within striking distance of a two-thirds majority. Now, I'm not sure exactly what's needed for two-thirds. The coalition has succeeded a two-thirds majority. Let me look up what constitutional revision requires. Amendments need to be approved by a supermajority of both houses of the National Diet and then a majority in a referendum. The problem is, I don't think that the LDP and JIP have a supermajority in the House of Councillors. So even if they can pass it in the lower house, I don't think they can pass it in the upper house either. When is the next election for this? 2028. So I don't know how they're going to amend the Constitution if they don't have the votes in the upper house. I think they let's see here. Let's see what they if we add in the nationalist parties. Okay, so 15 plus 101 plus 19 is 135. So what do they need to do it? Okay, so 248 times 0.66. So they need 163 seats to initiate constitutional reforms. Between Ishin, LDP, and Sensito and the CDP, they only have 100. And 37. Would they have enough with the DFPF? No. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I have no idea how they're going to even do constitutional reform at this point because they don't have the votes. But I guess we'll see soon enough. Comito will oppose it. The CDP will oppose it. I don't know. The upper house is kind of a shit show at the moment. I don't think that they can call early elections. No. Are all seats to the upper house elected? I think so. Membership in elections. Yeah, I think so. No, the House of Lords or the House of Peers was abolished after World War II, so there's no nobility in Japan anymore. So it's basically function. Well, I don't know. It doesn't really function like the Senate either. I don't really get it. It's kind of weird. Some people have wanted to abolish it, saying it serves no purpose. I'd say that's probably true. If you're going to have a upper house, I think it's elected the same way the lower house is. Because if you're going to have an upper house, it kind of has to serve some kind of additional purpose, which I don't think it does at the moment. So, like, the Senate is to give state representation. So, let's see. How long has this stream been going? Because I feel like I've covered most of what I wanted to cover. Oh, an hour. Okay, well, I've been pretty efficient with time as far as my streams go. I started reading a biography of Emperor Meiji, so hopefully I'll be able to make a video on it. It's pretty interesting. All I have to say is, like, Commodore Perry was a baller. He just showed up, and it's just like, you're going to open trade relations with America and you're going to like it. And if you don't, then there's going to be consequences. And the shogunate just was like, fuck. And there was basically just nothing they could do about it. Good kitty. There you go. See, Ray, being nice isn't that bad. Not biting me is a good thing. So Japan is one of the countries that doesn't have a descriptor. Its legal name is just Japan. It's not called the Empire of Japan. It's not called the Kingdom of Japan. It's not called the State of Japan. It's just called Japan. Um, Canada is also like that. I think it's just called Canada. It's not Dominion of Canada. It's not Kingdom of Canada. It's just Canada. Most countries have some sort of descriptor in their name, generally Republic of, or something like that. But Japan doesn't. I think that's deliberate because I think the nationalists and conservatives after World War II preferred nothing to it not being the Empire of Japan. So, if we were gonna rename my country, I'd say like the Canadian Federation would make sense, or the Federation of Canada. I think Canadian Federation would make the most sense. Let me see. No other seats have been called. I'll stay on another 10 minutes or something, and we'll just see if we get any more stuff come in. If people want to ask me questions or anything, just post in the chat. Oh, 1 second. Sorry, it keeps switching to top chat, so I can't see a lot of the comments. Let me just switch it back to live chat. I don't think gerrymandering is very possible in Japan. Um, they can play around with the number of votes per seat. So, like, the rural seats have fewer people in them, which is mainly because the LDP just wins all the rural ridings. Let me see if I can find a map of what it looks like. Let me find an election where the LDP won. Yeah. Like, the electoral map of Japan looks pretty much like every other country's electoral map. Um, wherein basically everywhere outside of the main cities is LDP. Greater Tokyo, Okinawa. So I found out something kind of trippy recently. So Japan has these random islands that are nowhere near the mainland. Uh, no, it's not the Ryukyu Islands. Um, Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima is still part of Japan legally. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so Iwo Jima is still part of Japan. Iwo Jima is nowhere near the Japanese mainland. Um, it's really far away. It's kind of surreal how far away it is. Oh, Japan's volcano islands. Yeah, Japan has a bunch of just random islands really far south. Oh, Iwo Jima is Sulphur Island? That's base. That's a cool name. They're considered part of Tokyo, which I find funny. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Just kind of a random side note. So, around islands, you have something called an exclusive economic zone, where it's I don't know if it's treated as internal territorial waters, but you're the only one who's allowed to do things like fishing or oil drilling or stuff there. So a lot of people, so it's good to have a bunch of just random islands. Like France has a very large number of uh, exclusive economic zones. Let me see if I can find a map of it. Um, Yeah. So because the various European countries have a bunch of random islands, they have exclusive economic zones all over the world. So like St. Helena, South Georgia, Falklands, Chagos, they have all these just random areas, which is pretty cool. But yeah, as you can see, that gives Japan a large additional territory there. No, the Chagos Islands are remaining part of Britain. Trump vetoed it, to my understanding. Um, the funniest thing about the Chagos Islands is the Chagos Islanders were against the sale. They like think that Mauritius is full of corrupt Esslers, and they want to remain part of the UK. I think like over 90% of them want to remain part of the UK. They're so pissed off about it being sold that they've declared a government in exile um, to try to prevent it. It's pretty funny. The whole Chagos Islands thing is as the more that time goes on, the more it looks like a massive corruption scandal that Starmer and Mendelsohn were involved in, wherein a lot of the reason that the islands were being transferred over, um, lost my train of thought there for a minute. Yeah, just because a lot of the law firms involved were owned by Starmer's friends. So they stand to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Also, there's not very many Chagos Islanders. Like, I get it if they don't want to hold on to parts that have like a ton of Africans, but there's not very many. There's like 1,000 Chagos Islanders or something like that. I don't know. Nothing about it makes any kind of sense, to be honest. Like, if anything, they should just be, if they don't want them anymore, just sell them to the US. They could probably get like $50 billion out of the US or some large amount of money, but they're just too retarded to do that. Starmer. Here's Starmer. From my understanding, Starmer, I think, is the least popular politician in the history of UK. Like, my understanding is since records began, he's the least. Let me see. What is Starmer's approval rating? It's got to have fallen somehow. It's got to have fallen since All the referendums came out. Sorry, all the revelations came out. Let's see here. So Starmer is at negative 50%, just about. Um, so that's something. Uh, but he's up against like Kemi Bannock and Nigel Farage, who are also widely despised. So, yeah, that's that makes things a little bit difficult. All right, I'll just give it another minute and we will sign off. Does anybody have any questions or things they want to ask me, things they want to discuss before we go? Macron, I think, is similar. The thing is, Macron would probably win re-election if he was allowed to have a third term. Um, the French public would probably vote him in again. They would prefer him to the National Front. Which energy drink do you prefer? I generally drink Monster myself, just because it's cheap and it comes in a variety of fun flavors. Well, I'll do one more refresh. Okay, no new numbers. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Japanese election coverage. I hope maybe you learned something about it. So God bless everybody, and